If you like to laugh, and who doesn't, then you've come to the right place. Welcome to My Funny House with the Powell brothers. Frank Powell is a real estate broker who was born and raised in San Diego, along with Frank's brother Mark, a real estate broker who also lives in San Diego. Each week, the Powell brothers bring in a special guest comedian to share hilarious real estate stories so you can learn what can go really right and what can go really wrong with home improvements and home ownership. So now, let's get into it. With My Funny House, here are your hosts, Frank and Mark Powell on The Answer San Diego.
Good morning, San Diego. Welcome to My Funny House with the Powell brothers. My name is Mark Powell, and the person sitting next to me, which you can't see unless you're watching us on YouTube, is my brother Frank Powell.
Good morning. Thank you for all my loyal visitors.
You got claps.
Oh, thank you.
You got claps from somebody in the studio.
Somebody. I have a fan club. Anyway, before we start, this is really important. We finally, in studio, have Maria Herman.
Woo! There she is.
Oh, the crowd goes wild.
We're so lucky.
She is always flying internationally. She's a jet setter, and we finally got her locked in to sit by us.
Yes.
And we're very happy.
Well,
Yes.
there is no place I would rather be this morning.
That's so cool.
So nice.
It's so nice to have Maria in studio because today we have a very cool topic. It's regarding home sales. It's how to prepare a home for sale, because there's a lot of misconceptions on preparing a home for sale. The first thing you should do is, Frank, do you want to tell us what the first thing you should do is to prepare your house for sale?
Well, first thing I would do is figure out how much you can sell it for.
Well, you can do that, but you know what I would do?
Maybe get a realtor?
Get a realtor. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that. Duh.
Yeah. Hire yourself.
Okay,
Yeah.
ding, ding,
Yeah,
ding.
get a realtor.
I get the first 5 points, you guys. I'm ahead.
Yeah, Maria's better than me, and I'm a broker.
Okay, what you got to do is you got to
Select an agent.
select an agent. That's correct. That's one of the most important things you can do. That's going to determine how much money you're going to get for the property and how the negotiation goes. However,
Right.
researching comparable properties.
That's what I was talking about.
Well, wait, can we just back it up?
Yes.
Because, people who are listening
Yeah.
would get to, if they've been listening to the show, they would know that you guys are fairly knowledgeable.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys are trustworthy. But how do you pick a realtor? Let's just start with that, because I think there's so many to choose from. There's so many companies. How do you know if you have a good one or not? How do you decide that?
Here's a good question that you should ask your agent if you have a few agents, because everyone knows an agent. One of them is saying, this is a hard one for any agent to answer, why should I hire you? Why don't I just sell it on my own? I can save 3%, 6%, 5.5%. What are you going to do for me?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Can you answer it, please?
Well, what I tell them is the number one responsibility that I have is to protect the investment, which means I protect the property, I protect the person, and protection means making sure we don't get into litigation, arbitration, mediation, and we nip it at the bud before we get a call in a year from now saying, hey, we pulled up the carpets and there's a big crack in the foundation.
Right.
So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you protect everybody. And one of the things, how we protect the people, is we say, you need to disclose everything. Don't point at something and tell me, hey, off the record, we had a leak or we had a fire in the kitchen, but we solved it. No, just disclose it. People don't mind as long as you're honest.
Well, yeah, I hope.
The other thing is, how many houses have you sold? How long have you been a realtor?
Right. Do you have any complaints?
Yeah, have
you
you
can
had,
look that up.
yeah, did you have any,
How do you look that up?
grievances?
How would I look up
That's a good question, but I know
the
how to do
Powell
that.
brothers?
So here's what you do.
Give me the dirt.
It's really easy. You just type in Google, look up a realtor's license number, and it directs you to the California Department of Real Estate. You put the person's name in there, and you can find out if they've had any complaints filed against them. You can see what their license status is, if they're licensed, if they're not licensed.
Right.
It's all online under the California Department of Real Estate. But preparing a house for sale is more than just hiring the agent. That is the first component. The actual preparation has a lot to do with what the house is going to look like, but first determining value. How do you determine value of your house?
Well, does it come with the people who live inside the house that you haven't told yet that you're selling it?
Sometimes.
How about those?
Oh, that's not uncommon. In fact, we've had to sell homes with the tenants in place. Like
right.
if it's a rental property, we just sold one with the renter in place and somebody bought it because it was an investment property.
It's a hard thing to do because typically when you buy a property, you want to increase the rent and you may have renters in there that are not too respectful of the property. But every now and then you get lucky and you get an investment property and you keep the clients in there, the tenants who have been paying on time.
Right.
And the property value stays up and everyone's happy because they don't have to move out. It's just a switch of the ownership.
Yeah.
Right.
I was talking about a mother-in-law. I wasn't talking
Oh,
about
yeah.
a renter or something. I was talking about actual people in my family. What about
yeah.
her cat? What about her 14 cats?
That's the other episode, how to make a granny flat.
Oh my goodness. Remember we sold that one house and they had a cat that he couldn't catch, so it came with the house and the people.
Typically, cats stay with the house, dogs go with the owners.
Right. So, yeah, well, I don't know. My cat would come with me.
Every now and then you get a person saying, there's a cat that's been hovering around my house, and the last people that own them just left
Do you
them.
know you can't steal a cat?
There's one right there.
So here's what you have to do. You have to do a comparable market analysis. That's one of the first things you do to determine what the value is, and that's done by comparing the home that you're selling to recently sold homes in the neighborhood. And the criteria is generally within the last 6 months, within a 1 mile radius of the property, and within 15 to 20% of the gross living area or the square footage of the house. You look up those homes, and that'll give you an idea of what the property's worth. But there may be some things in the home that you're looking at.
Those are called adjustments.
Yeah, some are subjective though.
A view?
A view subjective.
Yeah, how much?
A view of what, though?
Well, let's say we have a view of the ocean because we're in San Diego. What does that do to the cost? It elevates it, but how much? Is it a $10,000 view? Is it a $100,000 view? Because a person right across the street with the same house is not going to get the same amount of money because he can't see the ocean.
What about a view of like a pond? What about a pond?
Well,
what about a puddle that's what about a pond that's only there when it rains and it never rains? What about that?
Only show the house when it's raining.
Yeah, that's something you need to disclose if you got a pond when it rains.
Yeah. Poor drainage.
It's funny. So when they talk about a view, remember we had one house, a view of the ocean. They said you have a view of the
One
ocean.
house. What are you talking
Well,
about?
I mean, we sold a house where we looked at a house representing a buyer. It said view of the ocean. You literally,
from the bathroom window.
yes, it
you
was
get
like a
slice.
sliver of the ocean.
A
you
dot
know?
of.
And you had to crane your neck.
Yeah, and you had to stand on the toilet to see it.
Yes,
You know?
on
That's-
one leg
That's called
with
a.
your head out the window,
That's called a
which
peekaboo.
is so relaxing.
Exactly. Here's
Just
your view.
relax in the bathroom.
Getting everybody in the bathroom to look
Yes,
out the
enjoy
window.
enjoy the view.
Right.
One thing you really need to know when you're preparing a home for sale is you need to know if the person that is selling the house is authorized to sell the house. And you do that by looking up the deed and the title of the property, and that's called a preliminary title report. You want to explain a little bit what that is, Frank?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you get these cases where, especially in divorces, where one of the person wants to list it, but the other person doesn't. So legally, you can list a house with one of the owners,
Right.
but you can't sell it without both of them.
Right.
So that's the number one. That's what we really deal with. Is like you got to get together with your ex or about to be an ex and say, do we want to sell this house? If only one of them wants to sell it and this guy puts it on the market for listing, it's not going to sell. It's not going to close. So that's something else that you got to
Yes,
figure
because
out.
both have to sign the deed to
Yes.
transfer title of the property.
Absolutely. And one of them may be in another country, left, and you can't get a hold of them.
Right.
And we've had all these. So having a good discussion with both owners is a good idea, and to interview them separately if you have to make sure that you represent them both equally, even though they're going through a divorce, or you may know one side better than the
But
other.
there also there may be some liens on the property,
Absolutely. If you-
like
a tree, just like leaning against the house.
you know
Well,
that
no?
well,
Oh.
well, no, but that's also something that comes out in the home inspection. You know, when a tree is touching the house, it's not good because that's how rodents get on there.
Well,
and the home inspector will actually talk about that and say, hey, you got to cut the shrubs away from.
the reason why is because you can't get fire insurance if any branches are touching a house.
Right.
So you have these beautiful trees that are kind of touching your house and they're too close. You may have to get rid of them in order to get your
So
fire
it's
insurance.
true.
Yeah.
A tree leaning on a house.
Listen,
can't
we're
obstruct-
in
Maria knows this.
we're in a fire zone. All of San Diego is considered a fire
Right,
zone.
right.
It used to be like East County, but after
Right.
all these fires and global warming and all
Right.
these things going on, they look at everything.
Right,
So
we have San Diego has 2 seasons, summer and
fire season.
Right.
Well, we have tourist season.
oh, that's true. Maybe
That's
3
all the
now.
time now, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
driving around yesterday. I'm like, how does anybody get anywhere anymore?
Well, look at San Diego's a beautiful place to live. I mean, it is America's finest city.
That's the only good thing about COVID. You can have the streets to yourself. That was nice.
There was nobody on the road. It was
Nobody.
crazy.
Yeah,
It was kind of
great.
scary.
You could get to places in 10 minutes that usually take you 45 minutes.
They were closed when you got there.
Yeah,
but
well, they're
listen,
right.
you could get there.
So one thing a person needs to do when they're preparing their home for sale is they need to look at their curb appeal. And curb appeal is
Well, let's go back to the title,
okay
because we didn't talk about title insurance.
Okay.
So title insurance, we discussed this with Anne Franks once at Chicago Title. She came in and explained it. But what title insurance is, for the viewers that haven't heard it before, is that when you get the deed of a house, you want to make sure somebody doesn't come 5 years later and go, hey, you did not buy that house legally. I'm the great-grandson of this person, and he gave it to me in a will. So title insurance is something that gives you insurance of anything that happened previously to the title.
Right.
So they will settle it out. You'll still get to stay in the home, and it's a monetary thing that they give anyone who's complaining if they have a legitimate reason that they think they deserve the house. So that's why you get title insurance.
It's
And you
insurance.
could easily get screwed because all you need is fraud. If somebody signs a signature, 10 years before and sells a house and it goes through and they don't catch them forging, then you have a problem with the title. So you always want to get title insurance.
I'd like to get a title for the house, like the Grand Chalet or something like to give it. You see, the Hacienda.
No, they don't do that.
No, that's
funny.
not the kind. That's
No?
not the right. That's not the
Different
kind of
kind of
title.
title?
No,
All
this
right.
this is different. So, have you heard of this thing called title theft?
That's a new thing
Yeah.
because everyone's on the internet. They can actually go and act like they own it, and they get a couple.
They forge some
They forge it,
documents,
and all of a sudden
take
and
a
then-
loan out on
and then
it.
they get a loan out, and then you get a thing that says
Right.
you owe $400,000 on your house that you thought was already paid off, and you got screwed.
It's like identity theft for a home.
They do have companies that will help you, kind of like ones that help you protect your identity, and they have that for deeds now. You can look it up, Google it.
But what
see if
about
you-
the physical appearance of the home?
Well, you want it to look nice. When you go down the street and you decide what house you like, that's called curb appeal. Which one looks good and which
Right.
one looks like yucky? That's sometimes when you sell a house with great curb appeal, you look across the street and there's a rusted truck in front that screws it up because the other house curb appeal also matter towards whether or not you buy the house that you're looking
yeah, your
at.
neighbor's screwing up your. That's why they have
Right.
HOAs.
Yeah, well, that's where HOAs come from, so they can secure
Well,
the look of the neighborhood.
Homeowners associations, HOAs.
HOA.
Homeowners.
Nobody likes them, but they're very good for keeping the value
Well,
of the
some
properties up.
some people actually
Yeah,
do
some
like
people do. I
some
shouldn't
like
say no.
HOAs,
Right.
But it's just when you get into conflict because you planted the wrong tree or put
Right,
a-
because you have the people that live
weird
around
rock.
you on a board telling you what to do, and it's
Yeah.
not good for neighbors if you have a conflict.
Right.
But yeah, they are good to have because they do keep the value of the neighborhood going up in value because they make sure you don't have that rusty truck in your front yard.
or the purple house.
Yeah, or the crazy purple house. Yeah.
What if you take the rusty truck and you just paint it? I mean,
You can-
Then
What
you
if
can
you-
do that. That's fine. But you have to go through the homeowner association to make sure what color they want.
right. You
Yeah.
can't even change your garage door.
No, you can't change the front. You just have everything has to go through their
So
architectural.
basically, cut the grass, make it look
Right.
nice
That's
and
it.
neat.
Yeah, it's
Right.
kind of like living in a condo. Just keep it clean, stay inside, don't do much outside.
One other thing that people need to consider when they're preparing their home for sale is how are they going to market the house? That's big now, especially with the internet. So there's all sorts of different ways to market a house. And did you know that the vast number of people, about 90%, start their home search online? So taking professional photos is one other component of preparing your house for sale.
So it's almost like those dating apps. You look at a person, you don't like him, you swipe it to the right, swipe it to the right, swipe it to
Well, hold on a second. You're
Swipe
married.
to the right.
How do you know about those dating apps?
I saw you looking at him.
What kind of professional photographer are we talking about?
Exactly. We need a real pro. So these photos that they're using, that they're taking, they're using these cameras. And I know Frank does professional photos. He's awesome at this. But can you explain about those photos they can take? They can do 360 degrees in one picture.
Yeah, there's certain companies. There's about 3 to 5 that people use, and what they do is there's a camera that you put in the middle of the room, and this camera is designed to take a whole bunch of photos, stitch them together, and allow you to walk through the house. So by the time you get it, you can actually use your mouse, and then you go wherever you press,
Right.
you walk into that area. So you can legitimately walk through a house now.
Right, exactly.
Virtually.
I think they need something like that for the dating app, to be honest, because I would like to have a 360
Of the person?
that person.
Yeah, see how they
Which
live,
I
see if
don't
they're
want to see
dirty.
your best
Oh, my
side. I want to
goodness.
see your all
What if
sides.
they have that?
Let me
What
see
if they
all of
already?
that.
Can you imagine, Maria? There's going to be some IT guy right now
Right.
going, Maria Herman had this great idea. Guys, get on it.
I don't
We'll
think
call
so.
them MH app, the Maria Herman app. Okay, so in addition to having good curb appeal, having
Good
excellent
photography, having
excellent
good video, and now they use the drone. So you may want to, if you live on a canyon edge or something where you want to show a couple acres, you definitely want to hire a drone, because if you have like a 4-acre property that's
Right.
equestrian, people want to know where they're going to have their horses. You can't take still shots of that; it doesn't work. But now with the drones, you can set your drone to fly a certain pattern, and they can get all of it on film, and then launch up, so you have an aerial view, like if you're in a helicopter, and that gives the buyer a better perspective of how to sell it compared to the other person who doesn't have that. So that's the edge you want to use.
So I heard that when they're doing a roof inspection, some of them only use drones now.
Right, because
Do you
when you
about
do a
this?
home inspection, especially on clay tile roofs, you always end up breaking the tile. So the home
Right.
inspector has to pay for that. They don't want to
Yes.
go up there anymore. So now they can do the
Right.
drone. They also check for the chimney to make sure that's not pulling away from the roof. They can check the vents, and they can check how many cracked tiles they have. It's a great tool. It's
Right.
better than going up there because you don't have the danger of falling off the roof or
and nobody's
damaging.
skinny enough to walk on those things without
Yeah,
breaking.
fit
it,
it.
I
Yeah.
think again, a drone for the dating app would be good, because how many guys are trying to like not show you that bald spot in the back of their head?
God,
They just have the
360,
drone
right.
overhead. Here's the whole story.
Maybe you take the shirt off, you see the hair on their back.
Oh, that's too
far.
Okay,
Thank you.
so also something very simple that people don't do, a lot of people don't do, or they don't consider doing this, is hire a professional cleaning service prior to listing their home for sale. And we can go into a lot of discussion about
Oh
that,
yeah, for sure.
because
You get blind to the dirt in your house.
well, yeah, some people do.
I mean, even if you just look at your windows, whoever's listening to us, not all your windows are perfectly clean. And that's one of the easiest things to do, to show the view, to show your backyard, to show the vegetation, is having really clean windows. But no one likes to clean windows.
Oh,
So you hire a professional company.
That's correct.
Bathtubs,
Right.
grime.
Right. Cleaning
Toilets.
windows is the worst, though.
Yeah, cleaning. No one
I
likes
mean,
to
I don't
clean
think
windows.
I don't
I
clean
don't
my
do
windows.
windows.
No,
Yeah,
that's what
nobody
they
does
say.
windows.
My name's Maria, but I don't do windows.
Who does windows? I mean, I can shout out for Cleanology, right? Can
Yeah, yeah. Cleanology is a great company.
Yeah, it's a great
Yeah.
company. We use Cleanology, and they're professional. They're licensed. They're bonded. You get them in there, man. We hire them all the time, and it's almost like a housewarming gift. If we're going to sell a property, we want to make sure we transfer the keys on a very spotless house, so we're not embarrassed as agents. We want to always hand it over beautifully, so we use Cleanology.
Right. One thing that we also do is research the zoning of the home, because some people will say, look, I want to buy this house, but I want to run a business out of my house.
Right.
Now, you can run businesses, home-based businesses out of your house.
Depending on what it is.
Depending on what it is. Let's say you have an internet business, and so you're working from home and you're working online. No one really comes to your house. That's your business. You're running it out. But I don't think you could run a hair salon out of
A
your
mechanics,
house.
you know, the guy-
mechanics,
the
an
guy
auto
starts-
shop.
yeah, an
you
auto
know?
shop. He's cutting steel, and he's welding. And
What if you could run a gym? You have 30 people in your backyard training.
Right.
Can you
Well-
do that? Maybe.
What,
I don't know.
I don't know.
What about a hot dog stand? What about if you sold rotisserie chickens out of your garage? Just the smell. Oh,
That'd be a great idea.
Oh, that would be so.
You'd have a lot more
So
cats
good.
to deal
Oh.
with when you moved,
A
because I think
a little
Well,
pizza
that's
service.
that's a good question. You have to make sure that whatever business you want to run, you can do that. Especially with HOAs, that's the one that's going to
well, there's
definitely
because
block you.
there's when you look on the title report, there's some deed restrictions on there. There could be some deed restrictions
Yeah.
that prevent you from doing certain things. You know, if you get the deed and you're looking up what's going on with the property, it may specifically say you can't do certain things. You know,
One of them is
especially-
like build. You know, when you buy the deed and it says you can no longer build to block the house behind
well, that
it.
research the deed.
Right.
So here's what Frank is talking about. Some people that live on hillsides with beautiful views, they want to make sure that the person in front doesn't build 2 or 3 stories and block their view. So they will pay that person to put a deed restriction on their house. And the only person who can remove that restriction is the people who are behind that house. So what that deed restriction may say is that you cannot build higher than 15 feet or whatever.
Or 20 feet, right.
Whatever. They just want their view blocked. So you have to prepare the home for sale, you have to make sure that there are no deed restrictions, or if there are deed restrictions, you have to look into.
It'll also.
Well, what if you can't stand what you're looking at and you'd like to pay the people to build something extra on their house to block it out?
Well, that's Marie. That's really a good point.
Well, I mean,
because
why
I can
not?
tell you, you know what? Some people, they'll buy a house and they'll have this really beautiful view, but it's obstructed by a tree that's growing in the neighbor's yard.
Okay.
So they can ask if they'll trim the tree or remove it, but if the neighbors don't do it, they're kind of stuck looking at the tree, not the view.
Right, that happens a lot. There's
that happens.
a lot of trees that are blocking views, but usually people don't like to cut down trees just so somebody can have a view. That would probably take a lot of money.
I just wanted to go back to marketing of the property now. So one of the ways to market a property is through internet marketing, and there's a whole bunch of different websites you can.
Ways, right.
So normally when you load a property up in what we call the multiple listing services, the format or platform that realtors use to market a home for sale, that information gets pulled into multiple websites,
thousands,
public search sites,
international.
You can see them anywhere if you have access to the
anywhere in the
internet.
world. All they got to do, for those people listening, if you're ever wondering about a house, if it's for sale, and all you got to do is get the address and put it on a Google search.
Right.
It will pull all the information. It will tell you what it's selling for. It'll tell you the square footage. It'll show you the lot lines. It'll say how much property you're getting. It'll tell you how big the house is.
I think people would be surprised how much public information is available on
It's
their
almost
own house.
scary. Yeah.
It can tell you what your loan amount is,
it
when
tells
you
you
borrowed money.
It tells you who owns it.
What about my mother-in-law? Is it going to tell how much she weighs, how old she is?
Yeah.
These are details I don't want disclosed when I'm, selling her with the house.
Yeah, you don't have to disclose
How
that.
much she eats.
So,
oh God.
but
How much she drinks.
The marketing of the house is extremely important, and the narrative that people write
It's extremely important, right.
important because there are certain words that
you cannot use.
Well, there's certain words you can't use.
Yeah.
Well,
There's certain words that you can use that would really elevate the sale.
Like what?
Well,
Outstanding view.
remember that?
Yeah.
The 5 words you can't say on television.
Yeah.
We don't want to say those 5 words.
We can't go over all that.
It's-
But we
that was-
write the narrative, so that's why you want to hire a broker. Aren't we getting down to the wire? Look how fast time goes.
We're getting really close. So look, when it comes to preparing a home for sale,
everything is so many steps.
there's a lot of steps. And we outline all of these steps on our website if you'd like to see.
27 steps.
There's 27. Just to prepare the home for sale.
Just to prepare it. Before you even get it on the market, you want to do whatever.
Well, I can tell you, research properties ownership, research public records, research verify legal description, research properties land use, research property current use and zoning, verify legal names, perform exterior curb appeal.
Right.
The list goes on and on and on.
If people hire you or get you to sell their house, can't you do all the heavy lifting? Can't
That's
you
exactly
do all this stuff?
Well, that's what we do.
That's what
we
we do.
get paid
So
for.
we're just
explaining.
just
So
sell
listen,
my house.
we're
You'll
getting
do
down
the
to the
work.
wire. aren't
Right.
we?
Okay. So how do we look? How do we? If we wanted to find out how Maria prepares for her show,
Maria, how do we get a hold of you?
and how do you prepare for your show?
How do I prepare for my show? Well, I hire these 2 realtors, and then they write my set for me.
Exactly.
And they tell these terrible jokes every Saturday morning. Just look me up at comedyheights.com. Baybridge Brewing on Friday night, every Friday night, and Comedy Heights at Twigs every Saturday.
Good.
Great
Mark, how do we get a hold of us?
To get a hold of the Powell Brothers, you can find us online at powellbrothersrealty.com, or you can see us on our YouTube page, My Funny House with the Powell Brothers.
Or you can call us directly. Call my brother's cell phone, 858-922-7725.
Thank you so much for listening this morning, and have a great weekend. We appreciate all of
happy
you.
Saturday morning.
Thank
you guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for joining us today for My Funny House with the Powell Brothers, right here on The Answer San Diego. Join us next week as the Powell brothers bring you more funny stories of what can go really right and what can go really wrong with home improvements and home ownership. And bring the laughs to you with yet another hilarious guest comedian. To find out more about the Powell brothers, be sure to check out their website at powellbrothersrealty.com, or you can visit myfunnyhouse.com. Again, thanks for being with us, and we'll see you next week for My Funny House on The Answer San Diego.